So then one day I hit a brick wall. See, 14 years ago, I started my company, Nectar Consulting, when I realized that my passion for building multi-million-dollar websites really wasn't there anymore. See, I was going along and I thought it was all really great until it wasn't. And it got really uncomfortable and really stressful, and the joy had completely gone out of my work. But I didn't know what to do, because those golden handcuffs, they're really, really comfortable, except for when they're not. You see, one day I showed up at work and boom, my ego got smacked up against that brick wall because I found out I was getting laid off. And I was like, what? Excuse me? What did you just say? And so with my ego shattered and my self-esteem kind of in the toilet, I gathered my things and I went home. And I called my mother to tell her about my bad day. And just a few minutes into my conversation, my mom paused me because she was really upset, which she never ever is upset, telling me that my dear friend Al was dying. And so in an instant, my reality shifted. Here I thought I was having a crappy day and my friend Al was dying. It's like, wow, okay, guess I better put my big girl panties on and figure out what I'm gonna do, because I can't keep going on being miserable in a job that I didn't love anymore, or that I had anymore. And I needed to figure out what was gonna create my happiness. Now, just 7 days later, I got a call from my father, waking me up telling me that Al had died. And the thing that was so tragic about this was that Al didn't have to die. He chose not to take the cocktail of drugs that would have saved his life or prolonged it, because he was too afraid to be who he was, a gay man in a small town. And so instead, his fear allowed him to die. And that broke my heart. It still does. And so in that moment, I decided, I chose, I promised that I would not live my life from a place of fear, but I would figure out what to do next and get on with doing it. So I was pointed to find a coach. And what I discovered in the process of being coached to figure out what my next career move was gonna be was my passion, my purpose, my joy. And so I went and I got trained and certified up and down and round again in human development and relationships and so much more, probably 2,500 hours worth of training. I'm a little bit of a junkie now when it comes to this stuff. But I got trained and certified, I started my own company, and I haven't looked back since. And it's been a joy for me every day, well, almost every day, over the last 14-something years, right? When you figure out that what you're doing isn't working for you, then you have to figure out what will work for you. Because life is short, right? So you have to figure that out and pick your own girl, big girl panties on and move forward, right? Because someday starts now. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or running a large organization, it doesn't matter. What is important is that you find a way to run your organization from a place of passion and purpose that's in alignment with your values. I call this your sweet spot, where your passions, your talents, your purpose, and your core values all come into alignment. Like honey to a bee, your work becomes the food that sustains you and moves you through the world with grace and ease and joy. Because that's all that we all want. What I've realized in these 14 years is that we all want to make a difference, want to be of contribution, and feel that our voice matters, and we get to do something that has an impact in some powerful way, large or small. All this has to do with sustainability, because if you want to create a business that will thrive, this is the key, right? As an entrepreneur, if you're trying to do it all by yourself though, it's gonna get really exhausting, can be really, really tiring. So the key is to having a team behind you where everybody's lined up finding their sweet spot, working from their genius zone, as I like to call it, so you can create your success. That's the place that we're going today. When it comes to, lighting your own self on fire, finding your own passions, finding your own sweet spot, that's really, really key in creating your organization, creating your company in whatever shape or form you want that to look like. And it's important that you understand, what are your passions? What are your values? I remember when my very first coach asked me, what are your core values? I was like, that's a really good question. I don't know. So when you take time to think about that, it helps you really see what is important and what's not important, which is even more important. To understand how you want to move through the world in a good way and how you want to shape your organization. Now, you want to be able to have your team do the same thing. You want to be able to get your team lined up and speaking and operating from their core values and their passions and their purpose. Because if they're not, then you got a whole bunch of folks who are maybe kind of engaged, maybe sort of not engaged, right? So as J. Paul Getty once said, I'd rather have 1% of the effort of 100 men than 100% of effort from myself, because you can get a lot more done with a team, right? So how many of you have seen something like this or been in a meeting like this? We're all like, oh my God, make them stop talking, my ears are bleeding, right? Those really boring corporate meetings that we have to sit through. Well, we want to move from that to this. This is mindvalley.com. This is a company out of Malaysia where they all get to sit in bean bags and brainstorm and have an awesome time. Their whole team is on fire because everyone is aligned behind the mission of Vishen Lakhani. Everyone knows where they're going and what they're creating, and they're all on board with it. But when you have a team that looks like this, that's not so good. Not so good at all, you see. And what do you think that costs you when you have a team that's only maybe working 50% of what they're capable of? How does that impact your productivity? How does that impact your creativity, their focus, right? Bottom line, how does that impact the goals and the mission and the revenues of your company when your folks are only working part-time, really, only partially engaged versus being fully engaged? So that's the idea here. A recent Gallup poll states that in 2014, only 31.5% of employees were engaged. 1/3 of employees are engaged. 50%, 51% are unengaged, and 17.5% are actively disengaged. That means they're working hard to not work for you. They're working hard to almost sabotage your company, sabotage your success, because they're not happy. For whatever reason, they're not happy, and they bring their unhappiness and their grumpiness and their poopy face to work. And then energetically, that gets all over everybody else, and it has a ripple effect, positively or negatively, depending on how each person shows up on the team, right? So with unemployment rates dropping like they are, they're now down at like 5%, you have to do everything you can do to keep your team engaged, actively engaged versus actively disengaged, because it's very, very costly. So as an entrepreneur, this is you, right? Yay, I have a mission and a vision and I know what I'm doing. It's gonna be super exciting. We're gonna make $1 bazillion and we're gonna make a huge impact on the planet in a positive way, right? That's the whole idea when you set forth, right? And that's the goal. And then you've got your team. You're like, wah, wah. We got this person over here who's like, I'm happy, I'm doing my job. And then you got this one, I don't know. And this one, he's your disengaged person, like, I'm not doing anything more than what you tell me to do because you're not paying me enough. I'm not gonna do it. And that's Fred over there. He really doesn't know what he's doing. He shows up, right? But he's not quite sure how he's really supposed to engage. He isn't quite clued into that. So we want to get your team moving from this to something that's a lot more lively, right? That's the whole idea. So we want to move them from surviving, which is where they are. We're like, I'm going to show up, I'm going to collect a paycheck, I'm going to do some work, and then I'm going to go home, and then I'm going to forget about it. But when you have an engaged team, they show up, they give their love, their blood, their sweat, their tears to the work because they're in it. They're in it with you. They're not just dead weight or dead wood. Now, when you can help your team understand what their values are, their compelling why, as I like to call it, that's what your compelling why is, when your talents and your core values and your passions are all in alignment. That's when you're really on fire, because you're motivated from the inside out. Your passions, your spirit actually pulls you forward to do the work that you're called to do. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing. So we want to go from having a team that looks like this to having a whole bunch of people that looks like this. Woo! Right? So the key, though, is when you've got these employees, they're all kind of doing their job. We have Mary, John, Kim, and Fred. Y'all meet the audience. You're all very excited to be here, as you can tell. They're doing their job, but they're just kind of existing. They're surviving, but they're not necessarily thriving. So when we can move them to finding more flow, that's a better way to operate from. Because right now, they're kind of working together. They're maybe in their cubes, which have these invisible walls that keep them from communicating with each other. They're kind of, bouncing around. Somebody's over here kind of spinning around in circles, and somebody's stuck under a rock, and they're just kind of doing what they're doing, but there's no synchronicity to it. There's no flow to it. And that's the whole idea. We want to help you find more flow with your team, so overall you can experience a greater success. Now, when you can have your team tap into their values, their talents, their passions, and that turned out weird on there, oh well, and their compelling why, then you've got a team that starts to flow in alignment with each other. They start to understand each other, and better yet, if you can help them understand where the commonalities are in their common why, you've even got a more excited team because they're on the same page, right? You want to get everybody on the same page so that your business can thrive and everybody can be moving in the same direction. So when you're able to do that, your team flow increases and everyone is really excited to be moving forward. And it makes a huge difference. You go from that surviving place to that thriving place. And what happens is communication increases, productivity increases, collaboration starts to grow up, and then trust is built as well. Because without trust, without communication, we're back over here with these dudes who are kind of spinning around in circles and don't really know what they're supposed to be doing, right? And you're probably only getting maybe 50 to 60% of your talent actually tapped into right here, right? But here, now you move the needle up to about 75%, maybe 85%. You're getting a lot more value and expertise out of your team because they're able to be more excited, more compelled to be at their work. So as a leader, your job is to come from your compelling why so that you can get your team lined up behind you and ready to go, to create the vision that you have for your business, to tap into your goals and have those move forward and impact the world in a positive way. Just like all these people here today, right? They all want to have a positive impact on the planet in some way, shape, or form. And when you can get everybody lined up, that's what happens. There's a word in Spanish called conocimiento. I can never say it right. Conocimiento. Go ahead, say it with me. Conocimiento. Conocimiento, and what that really translates to is shared knowledge. When you can start to understand the gifts, the talents, the skills of the people that you work with, then you build greater rapport, you build greater trust, and that creates greater collaboration and shared power, allowing you to delegate more effectively, to trust that people are going to be able to take what you give them and move it forward, right? So what happens is now you have a team that's really connecting the dots with each other. They're all starting to line up and really understanding where they're coming from, understanding what's important to them, when they really see into the values of each other, then it's much easier for you as a leader to tap into that talent and get everybody moving forward with you, right? And then what happens is then you're able to really find the sweet spot of your organization, the genius zone of your organization, so that you as the leader are just as excited as all your people, because now they're shining, they got light coming out their heads and their stars are brilliant, right? That's the whole idea, is to create a shining organization that really energetically everyone is happy and engaged and creating good work in the world, knowing that their voice matters, that their contributions matter, and that they're able to have a positive, powerful impact in the world. See, oftentimes as individuals you might think, wow, I can't do anything, I'm just one person, how can I make an impact? But as a leader of your organization, you have the power to direct the flow of the good acts that you want to do in the world. You have the power to compel, to align, to engage those people on your team so that you can all move forward more powerfully. And when you're able to do that, what happens is trust rises and stress and fear decreases, because trust is all about feeling safe. And if you can't feel safe in your organization, then you're going to shut down, you're going to close off, you're going to put up walls to try and protect yourself. And that's not very effective. It doesn't allow for communication or collaboration. So ultimately, as you engage people more fully, then the flow of the entire organization increases. Your talent and value of each individual rises, and you're able to leverage that into increased revenues, increased customer client satisfaction, and the ripple effects go out and out and out, like when you drop a pebble in the pond. Now, having these kinds of conversations isn't necessarily easy. And doing the hard work to build trust and collaboration takes time and effort. But when you end up with a team that's working together, everyone from their sweet spot, wow, that's priceless, right? So I wanted to be able to give you something today as leaders and as business owners to help you avoid the pitfalls. These 3 mistakes are something that can help you expand the success of your business more easily and more effortlessly. And if you take the time and the effort to think about these and implement them, then you'll be surprised at the effects and the impact that we'll have. So 3 mistakes to avoid. Mistake number 1, lack of buy-in. Now, as a leader, your job is to understand what are the values, what are the passions, what are the goals of your organization. But if you're not clear, then your team can't be clear, right? And if your team's not clear, then they're probably going to be spinning around in circles all over again. So it's imperative that you do this. And when you can, then you get a team that's on fire and lit up and moving forward. A great example is a colleague of mine, client of mine that I've worked with for over 10 years. She's so clear on her mission and her vision that it's woven through everything that she does and all the work that she does. And because of that, she's been able to attract to her amazing group of talented individuals that always goes above and beyond to deliver amazing work and training programs for students all over the state. It's really inspiring. You can walk into their office and you can feel it. It's palpable. That's the kind of buy-in that we're talking about. Mistake number 2, lack of flow. So when you've got folks who aren't in flow, who aren't tapped into their values, who don't know what's going on, they're just kind of, what are we doing? But as a leader, when you can figure that out and you can help them tap into their sweet spot, their genius zone, then everyone comes into alignment and things can move forward more effectively, more strategically, with greater ease, and less stress. So here's a great example, right? A colleague of mine, Victoria, she owns a vocational college in Australia. She has 17 colleges, or 17 campuses around the country, and a staff of 20 that runs the whole thing. Now, when she took her team through this process, she was able to then help them realign and redistribute the roles and responsibilities more effectively. And within 6 months, she doubled her revenues from 1.2 to $2.4 million. Not so bad. So this genius zone stuff, it pays. It's just a matter of getting aligned with it. And then mistake number 3, lack of trust. When you don't trust, what happens? You try to protect yourself. Trust is all about safety, and if you don't feel safe, we do that naturally. It's just instinct. So as a leader, if you're not trusting your team to do the great work that you've hired them to do, then morale goes down, productivity probably goes down, and stress levels go up. So your job is to understand that trust is vital and collaboration is vital. So creating those ways for conocimiento to happen, for that connection to happen, then people can more effectively work together and trust rises. So one colleague that I've worked with, she's very clear on her mission and very clear on her vision for her company. And she's got some amazing people on her team, but she lacks trust. And because of that, she'll hand out stuff for her very capable team to do, and they go off and they work really, really hard, and they create stuff, and they work night and day to get it done, and then she ends up having to review it and steps on people's toes and rewrites it, or changes direction completely midstream. So they're left frustrated and burnt out, and quite frankly being underpaid for everything that she puts them through. Now, what has this created in her organization? A very high level of turnover. So all of that money that she could be putting into raising salaries for people, she actually has to spend in going to find new talent to replace people who keep leaving. So trust is a powerful thing. And if people spend their time trying to protect themselves, well, that's energy that they are not putting into creating brilliant ideas, creating new projects or programs or products for your clients. It's energy wasted. So you can shift that by just creating stronger levels of trust in your organization. So what happens when you create greater trust and greater collaboration? You get everybody in the organization lined up, working from their genius zone, working from their sweet spot. And what's possible when you do that? What's possible? Imagine what can happen in your organization when everybody is firing on all cylinders. They're all working from their sweet spot. How can that impact the good work that you all have to do in the world? How can that impact not only your bottom line, but what your clients and your customers get out of it as well? You then get this whole team moving forward to find their success and to create greater satisfaction. That's the whole idea. Now, some of you will go out and put these ideas to good use, and that's awesome, right? And sometimes that's enough. But quite frankly, how comfortable are you in having these kinds of conversations? How comfortable are you in having these difficult conversations which facilitates change? Because let's face it, people don't like change. They don't like getting out of their comfort zone. So having someone who can come in as an outside neutral force to help you facilitate these conversations can be really, really powerful. Having someone to hold you accountable to having those hard conversations or pushing you further when you want to back away and take the easy route. That's what we can help you with. Because we need your leadership. We need your brilliance. So you can tap into your genius zone and help your team do the same. So what we talked about here today, a couple things. You want to remember to identify your core values and your compelling why, not only for you, but for your team as well. You want to operate from your sweet spot. from a place that allows you to feel most joy and most internally motivated so you can move forward. And then remember to practice conocimiento so that you can cultivate connection and build trust and collaboration in your organization, because that's really key. These are the 3 keys to having a really vibrant organization. Because if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? When are you going to move this forward? When are you going to get your products and services out there in a bigger, bolder way? Because we need them. We need your vision. We need your passion out in the world. Now, some of these things can be challenging, right? And they can be a little daunting. So if you know that there's something bigger for you to create in the world, then you can go to Kiwi Live, and there's a little button there, and you can claim your free clarity chat conversation with me. We can talk and see how you can move the needle on your own business or your own goals, right? If you know that you're willing and wanting to step out into the world in a bigger, bolder way, but you might be scared and you don't know quite how to do that, then let's have a chat, because I know you can do it. It's just a matter of moving you there, one baby step at a time. If you know that you have a team that you want to really excel, again, let me know. We can help you move that forward and create the change that you want to create in the world. Your job as a leader is to live your life as an expression of your genius. You see, when you're bold enough and courageous enough to do that for yourself, then you inspire others in the process and create a better community and a better planet for everyone. And that's what we need. That's what we need from you. That's what we need from you. That's what we need from you. So thank you. My name's Michele Molitor, and I look forward to connecting with you. Namaste.